فإن تولوا فقل حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم.
Who's been instrumental for hosting this event today, as well as our sponsors, Dr. Mohammed Shahi, Yunus Pawia, Bakir Zulkaran. Thank you so much for helping us organizing that and sponsoring this event. Really appreciate it. I will pass the mic on to Shelton Crispy, but just a bit more bio on him. He's been really involved in our community here in Oakville and as well as Halton as well. He has served as board member of Lions Club, YMCA, and many others. Some of you might also know him from the seniors group as well. After retirement, he took the role of being a seniors enthusiast and has served as the vice chairman of Ontario Society of the Senior Citizen Organization. And he founded that forum about 5 years ago. So thank you for all the work you've done for seniors, and of course also to help out our dear friend Yasir MP. So pass it on to you to say a few words.
Thank you, Kelly.
Second one.
Especially the community members, we like to see the crowd of our neighbors and members of our community to come to this forum. Participating in Mr. Yasir MP, today who is a member of parliament. Yasir MP, he is a very distinguished, very seasoned politician, and has been in the government the last many years. I've got to introduce him here, somebody else will introduce him. Yeah. But currently he is holding a very important position in the ruling party, and now he's a candidate for the leadership of Liberal Party of Ontario. Right. Now this is an extent of possibility. I thought we should get together and know him directly and find out about him and ask questions to him about our issues which we have, and let's try to get the insight about, say, different governments, federal government, provincial, municipal, town, because there's a lot of confusion. Who is responsible for what? Who is saying or higher or something? So that needs to be clarified so that people should have a right expectation. Your presence today indicates or demonstrates your interest and commitment in developing a better governance in this country and making it more desirable home for us. Okay? I'm expecting that during this presentation, I'm requesting, also expecting Mr. Yasir MP, they will be talking about some key issues about his plan, about his thinking, what he thinks, issues which are very, very close to us. For example, the healthcare issue, we all know, the long wait time at the emergency, the long wait time at for the testing to diagnostic immediate and elective surgery. So that's an issue for all of us, and this population, which is now growing, elder population, senior, which are going to be in the next 10 years about 25%, or close to that will be the population of seniors requiring these services from the health sector. And that's one issue where we like him to hear from him, his vision, his plan. Also, another issue with the health is the shortage of the family physician. There are families who have been waiting for the family physician for the last almost 7-8 years to get it. On the other side, we have the abundance of highly qualified expert medical specialists, doctors from overseas country, and they are driving over. So this is what a mismatch we have, unfortunately. Similarly, another issue which has come up recently is the housing affordability. The housing prices, the mortgage, the availability, the rent, all those things are becoming a real problem for our member community. And the important thing which is ongoing for any government is the economic growth, creation of jobs, supporting the local business. Because we do get a lot of immigrants, professional, highly qualified, but there are some of them, they cannot be integrated in the system. So that's an issue. Public safety. Recently we have seen a large number of car theft in Oakville, and a lot of crime, safety crime. So maybe probably would like to talk about his vision or his plan, what he has in mind. And the social issues, which are very important to us, very dear to us, like Islamophobia, not only Islamophobia, any crime against hate, that's what we are against it as a super religion. That's something which is a concern. Another thing, I'm pretty sure many of you will have a question to inform about this LGBTQ and the sex education indeed. So these are a few issues. Now this forum is structured in a way, we'll invite Mr. Yasir MP, he will give a talk, and then the floor will be open and you'll be asked the questions again, to get the clarifications, so that you have the opportunity to get his viewpoint about it. Now, let me very briefly, before I invite or I ask someone to introduce Yasir MP, let me tell you one thing. Yasir MP is a born politician, is a born political activist. So many of you will not know, at the age he started his political activity at a very remarkable age, when he was 1 month old. You do not know it. When he was 1 month old, he joined delegations, a group from Karachi, traveled to Karachi to Lahore, 1,000 kilometers with his parents, Naqvi and his wife. Unfortunately, Anwar Bhai could not be here. Anwar Sahab has been also very active, energetic activist in Pakistan, and he qualified to be for jail. So he was in jail for a couple of months, and he was tried also by the military court, which was coming today, I mean. So he is the son. So this guy started his political career when he was 1 month old, traveling in a bus from Karachi to Lahore, 1,000 kilometers, attended a MRT convention. And many of you will know Nawab Rasulullah Khan. Nawab Rasulullah Khan has publicly acknowledged him as the youngest member of his party at the age of 1 month. And this thing continued when he was 4 years old. He was very actively participating and shouting slogans against the ruling party of the real ruling party. You can imagine Mr. Bhutto. He was the one guy. So I will stop over here. The rest somebody else is to tell. So I would now like Dr. Shahid to come and introduce Yasir. Please, Yasir.
Thank you, Shah. So a lot has been said by Yasir. It's very good to hear him. He's currently from Oakville Central. He has, if you are doing it from when you are 1 month year old, even if you're 30, you have a lot of experience. And you have great provincial experience in terms of Ministry of Labor and also Attorney General. That's where we first met. I'll spend a couple of minutes that why I decided to be involved. I have been in Canada for 14 years, and before that in US for 16 years. In my college days, I used to be very active in politics, but here I've left it known that this guy stimulated me to get involved in this endeavor. And this is a testament to his capability, what he can do to the community. I had a very heartfelt discussion, and the privilege of having a very heartfelt discussion with Yasir about the healthcare system. That's what I can speak about. And yes, you see it from the perspective of waiting in ER or access to care. I also see from that perspective, and also from what is happening to the physicians, tired. And I totally endorse his vision. But just to say that, I'm really excited. It has been almost 30 years since I've been involved in any way, shape, or form, besides voting to be.
Assalamu alaikum. Do you think I need a microphone? Perfect. My mother would tell me that I never needed a microphone. It's more personal this way. I hope if that's okay. I just find the podium always creates a barrier between people. Thank you so very much to every single one of you for being here today, this afternoon. It's still summer, it's a beautiful day outside, it's Thursday, all of you could have been doing a lot of things. I know quite a few of you have traveled from far away, and it really means to me personally that you are here, but most importantly, I think it really speaks volumes to our democracy, that all of you take so much interest and want to make sure that you're part of the process that impacts all our lives. And that's the most incredible thing about democracy in Canada, that we actually get to shape it, we get to participate in it if we choose to do so, and you are choosing to do so. Oakville is my second home because my parents live in Oakville. As Shaka Rizvi, thank you very much for organizing this as well. I just want to thank you, and I have a message for my father. As Shaka Rizvi Saab mentioned, my father, Naqvi, is a good friend of Rizvi Saab. My dad was very much looking forward to coming here today. He just was not feeling well this morning. He's just getting some checkups done at the Oakville Hospital. He's fine, but he at least 4 times said to my mother, who's here, and my older brother, who's here as well, that you're not canceling the event this afternoon, that you are going at 4 o'clock. As I was leaving around 2, he said, don't forget, it's at 4 o'clock today. I guess, Dad, it's all taken care of. So, thank you for your well wishes. We will pass that on to him as well, but really happy that my Ami is here with us. And Kaniz, thank you. Kaniz is a good friend. Kaniz, you know, is our candidate here in Oakville, North Burlington, and I'm committed and dedicated that Kaniz will become the member of provincial parliament for the Liberal Party from this community as well, because she's the kind of party leader that we need to represent our community. As you've heard, that I'm running to seek the leadership of the Ontario Liberal Party. And before I talk about some of the issues that's propelled me to run for the leadership, let me give you a little bit of a taste of who I am as a person. What motivates me? You heard a few of the anecdotes about my political activism going back to a month old, when I did not have much of a say as to what I'm doing in my life, but thanks to my parents, who gave me that opportunity, who exposed their children to things that were happening around us. And that has been very much a part and parcel of my upbringing. Rizvi Saab mentioned that our father spent 9 months as a political prisoner in Pakistan. I was 10 years old. That's a really vivid part of my upbringing. But the most important part about that episode in my life is the very first lesson I learned, which is, no matter how comfortable you are, no matter how things are around you, if you see injustice, if you see things, if you believe that things can be better, you stand up. Real leaders challenge the status quo. And even though both my parents were lawyers, lived a very comfortable life in Karachi, you know, the professional class lifestyles that all of us are used to, with naukar, chakar, ghar, and everything, they knew things could be better. They knew democracy was essential for the well-being of their country. And my father participated in led a pro-democracy march. For that, he was arrested, he was tried in a military court, and spent 9 months as a political prisoner. Our mother took 3 kids in tow and made sure that she fought for his rights as a political prisoner, so that he's treated fairly to the extent possible when he was rotting in a notorious jail. Not in Karachi where we live, but they moved him to Hyderabad, Sindh, to make it difficult for his family to visit, because she did not accept the status quo, that she stood up for against that. And the same reason they moved to Canada, because they wanted to ensure that their children, all 3 of us, have the best life possible. I have often asked them this question: why did you decide to move to Canada? And my father gives a very interesting answer, and those of you who know my dad, he's a bit of a poetic guy, so there's a bit of a poetic justification to everything he presents. And his line is, the reason we came to Canada because I wanted you guys, Ali Bhai, my sister and I, to be the citizens of the world. Which for the longest time I didn't understand what he meant by us being citizens of the world. And it dawned on me a few years ago what he meant to say, that he wanted us to be living in a country where we can do whatever we want. he brought us to a place where the measure of success was not your last name, was not which family you belonged to, which side of town you lived in. It was how hard are you willing to work. And if you put your mind to it, if you put your brain to it, if you put your work ethic into it, you can accomplish it. Ami gives a totally different reason when you ask the same question. Her reason to choosing to come to Canada was because she wanted our sister, who's the youngest of us three, an equal chance, the equal opportunity to her two sons. At home in Karachi, in Pakistan, of course, the three of us were treated equally, but she knew the moment we left home, that was not the case. And she wanted to come to a country where her daughter was equal. And trust me, she's a very successful lawyer in California. She's far more smarter than my brother and combined. And she tells us what to do in life. But that's the reason that brought us. But things got really interesting, and this is where I think a lot of you will see yourself reflected. So we come to this country in 1988, 35 years ago. I was 15 years old. Now you can do the math how old I am. Spoke very little English. We did not know anyone. Nobody even told us at that time not to come in the middle of winter. We arrived on Boxing Day, 1988. It was minus 16. This is the extent of how much we knew the new place we were coming. I often say that on an 18-hour flight, my parents went from being someone to no one. But this is the guy who not only under the guise of freedom of speech, and it's a bit of a line that you can keep inside of, he went a step further, showed up at a meeting of Peel School Board with a bunch of his supporters with Quran in their hands and started ripping the pages of Quran Sharif. Okay? People complained. Rightly so, Muslims in Peel complained. Peel police investigated and they said, I wonder we can lay hate crime charges against him. So the matter comes all the way to the ivory tower that I used to occupy, the office downtown Toronto, with the question that should we charge him with hate crime or not. Has never been done in Canada up to this point. This is 2017. And the advice from my lawyers, of course I don't make these decisions by myself, there's a big team of really smart lawyers, said, Minister, Attorney, we can't, because that's just freedom of expression. We were just ripping pages of a book. And I had to say that, it's like, pause. We're not talking about that he was ripping the pages of Romeo and Juliet. He's ripping the pages of the most sacred and holy book for every single Muslim. Doing that is to tell a Muslim that I hate you, that I do not believe in you, that I want your destruction. In fact, I had to remind them or educate them, for Muslims, desecration of Bible and Torah has the same stature because these are holy books. And I convinced them that we have to lay those charges. And we laid those charges. And I have to tell you, not only we laid those charges, a judge found our argument to be persuasive, he was convicted, and he was sentenced 2 years for that hate crime. And now there is law in Canada, not just in Ontario, because we're system based on precedent, we have law across the country says an act like this is equal to spreading hatred towards Muslims. I share this story with you. When you occupy those positions, your perspective matters. When you are able to bring so now we come to present. That's why I believe that I'm the most relevant person running in this leadership race. There's 5 of us. This is a very competitive race. The other 4 people are good people. They're actually good friends of mine. But I strongly believe that I have the experience, the most experience, both professionally, because I'm the only one who's actually have served in cabinet, have occupied important positions, know how decisions are made, have had demonstrated making those decisions, because decisions are never black and white. There's a lot of gray that you have to act upon. None of my friends who are in this race have ever done this, but most importantly, I'm bringing lived experience to this job. Experience that makes me far more relatable in my view of all of you, the diversity of this province, the way our province is growing, that will allow us to have somebody as a leader and inshallah as a premier who can make decisions for the betterment of everyone. I have been traveling this province, every four corners. There is not a part of this province that I have not been. There are 124 ridings. I've been to almost every single riding in this province. I've been to rooms as big as this, and in rooms with just 2 people showed up. Because I want to make sure that I'm listening to all Ontarians as we talk about issues. And there's 3 issues that keep coming up that are top of mind of people. And by the way, let me just tell you, people are really hurting right now. There's a lot of anxiety out there. There's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of division. And people are looking for leaders who actually will bring people together, not divide them. Because that's not leadership. 3 issues. Number 1, by far, is healthcare. And even in healthcare, is access to family doctors and nurses. There are 2.6 million Ontarians right now who do not have access to primary healthcare, to a family doctor or a nurse practitioner. And that number is growing. The reason why that's important, because that's your gateway to getting care. If you are not able to have access to regular care, how are you going to be able to look after yourself? Because then when you get sick, guess what happens? You go to the emergency room. And emergency rooms wait times are growing and growing. In some places they're up to 20 hours. Those of you who may know people who live in smaller communities in rural Ontario, emergency rooms actually now close down on weekends. Because they don't have enough physicians or nurses or other healthcare professionals to look after. Any leader must address that issue first, by far. And what we're seeing with the current leader of this province, Doug Ford, he's neglected this. In fact, his solution is a private model of delivery, which, by the way, does not do anything to improve access. In fact, it actually costs you money to access. And some of the solutions that I have presented, and I'm very fortunate that people like Dr. Shahid Hussain, who in the profession said this is something that has to be done, it's a low-hanging fruit, is 2 things. 1, we're bringing the best and the brightest of professionals from around the world. We bring them based on their qualifications, their profession, and as soon as they come, just like what happened to my parents, we tell them, oh no, your degree is not good enough. You don't have Canadian experience. And we don't let them practice in that profession. What they do, some drive Uber, some take security jobs, some works in lab. Why? Because they have young families to feed. But we're losing an entire generation of professionals that we can get licensed as quickly as possible so they can practice. Do you know that over 60% of internationally trained doctors and nurses are not able to practice in Ontario? That's about just around 4,000 doctors right now in this province. And so the first thing I will do, if you give me this opportunity, is change the system. And by the way, the change is at the provincial level. And it can be done quite relatively easy. Easy in a sense that it will require a lot of pushing, but if partners are willing to do like our colleges that regulate these professions, it can be done quite easily. And it will be for the betterment of all Ontarians. Similarly, we need to invest in our medical schools and our nursing colleges, for instance, so we can create more positions for our young students to be able to attend those college and universities. How many of us know members of our families, young kids who have gotten their undergraduate degrees from one of the universities here in Ontario and are going to US, UK, Australia, or Caribbean countries to do their medical degree? Why? Because we don't have enough positions. It's not that they're not smart. They're very smart. It's just we don't have enough positions, spots, residency and medical school spots. And most of those kids then, of course, stay in the country they are because they get their license. And the rest who do come back, we treat them as internationally trained professionals and we put them through the same challenge as everybody else. We need to invest in our colleges and universities to create more opportunities for them. Issue number 2, education. I'll be honest with you, this is a conversation we'll have a little later on. Parents have lost trust on our public education system. And that breaks my heart. I'm standing here in front of you, speaking the way I am. The things that I'm able to do is because I got incredible, excellent public education right in this province. We came here, we didn't have enough money. We didn't have money to send all 3 of us to private school. We went to public schools. And that is the most incredible thing about our public education system, because to me it's the great equalizer. It doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter how much money you have. We can all go to the same publicly funded system and get the best education. And that system is again leaving our kids behind. Our curriculum is not up to date. Our class sizes have blown out of control. I met the other day a kindergarten teacher, 4 and 5-year-olds. Do you know how many kids she has in her class right now? 30 to 40, 35. 35, 4 and 5-year-olds. These are foundational ages for our children. Right? This is where your brain is a computer, the coding is just starting to begin. And she's just basically babysitting. Even in a babysitting system under the law, we don't allow that many children per adult. But somehow we have allowed, Doug Ford has allowed our class sizes to balloon, where teachers are basically teaching to the lowest common denominator.